Hey, welcome to the Joe Hoff Show. Glad you're here. And it is Friday, so lots going on. We're gonna blow you away with some more truth. These animals, they hate the truth, so that's why we keep feeding them it, and that's where we are and who we are. Nothing but the truth here. And so, thank you for listening. Thank you for enjoying the show, and thanks for promoting it as well. Lots to do, lots to talk about here. We got a great show guest today as well. So, anyways, it's Friday, another great day. Thanks to President Trump being in office right now. Every day is just magic with new stuff, and the left has just no answer. And the biggest evidence of that was this past week. Not just the election where they got swamped. Of course, the results are probably closer to what the polling was after President Trump's speech on Tuesday. 80-20, basically 80% of Americans really liked the speech. So, that's probably the final numbers in the election. We have to get our election process going. As you know, I've written 3 books on the election. If you haven't got them yet, go out to Amazon. You can get them. Go to joehoft.com, and there's links there, and you can get a little glimpse of the books. And they've been translated into Italian. Thinking about consolidating the books. I need to do that, and then work on some new books because there's a lot to talk about. A lot going on. I'm really hoping in the next week or so we can drop a major league absolute nuclear bomb on the news world. So we're hoping to do that. We're working on it, and we'll see what happens. But God bless you. Hang in there. We are going to keep fighting for the truth. So. Well, we're doing that. The Democrats have their answer, and their answer this week was an abysmal failure. It was terrible. It was laughable. It was embarrassing even. And so we're gonna talk about that today to start the show off. If you happen to see the President Trump's speech, it was outstanding from start to finish, and it's been really the talk of the week. Lots about it. I've talked a lot about it here. It's really magical. Uh, Dems had no answer, and they tried to come up with an answer ahead of time. Oh, it's these senators are going to come out and say something. And the problem was, it became 5 senators. Then it was 10. Then at the end, I believe it was 22 senators, Democrat senators, all basically said the same thing. It was all rehearsed, like that famous, like we showed earlier this week, that media clip where everybody in the media is saying the same thing. This whole big picture of everybody saying the exact same thing, like a bunch of puppets that can't think on their own and are following orders. And that's exactly what the Democrat Party is. And that's what it was. And it was embarrassing. And so we'll start off the show today with the Democrats' best effort to combat Trump. And remember, here's the thing before we show it. The thing is that President Trump's doing real things. He's real things. He's writing executive orders. He's shored up the southern border. It's closed now. It is absolutely closed. Nobody's crossing that border without the United States knowing it, as it should be, as our law promotes. Our safety is a big part of that Constitution. And Joe Biden did all he could, or his gang, to prevent that border from ever being closed. It was outrageous. We found out from Tulsi Gabbard this week. And not only that, but they arrested and found people crossing that border that were terrorists, confirmed terrorists, and they let them go. That is how sick the Biden gang is. They hated America. They wanted to destroy it, and they did a damn good job. And we're going to battle this economy now because President Trump's question was, how can we keep the economy moving and get rid of all this massive government spending of fraud, et cetera. And that's their challenge right now. And he's going to do it. And he's doing it. And he's doing it through Doge. And that was a big part of Trump's speech, too. But the left, their answer was pathetic, embarrassing even. And here was the beginning of their answer on Tuesday. Watch this.
When I win, I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one.
They're playing families off
Republicans
win,
families.
that
is the truth.
That is the truth.
And that is the truth.
And that is the truth.
They lied throughout the whole thing. Everything they said was a lie. And it's just so disgusting. That's their answer, was propaganda lies against President Trump, shoring up the border, fixing the economy, finding $1 trillion in government waste. You think people aren't excited about that? Helping Americans again, caring about Americans, not wanting to destroy this country is the first step. He loves this country and he's doing it. And that's their answer. It's disgusting. It's lies too. They're talking about trying to attack Social Security and all this stuff. That's a lie. What they should be saying is that he wants to get rid of income tax. How about that, left? How about that for an idea? You would never think of that. You're fine stealing our money, sending our men overseas to war, endless wars. I mean, President Trump's for peace. Today, they've got another round with Zelensky, this time in Saudi Arabia. They are going to get this thing fixed. They're not going to allow people to continue to get murdered. And yes, Lindsey Graham, it matters if other people are dying too, not just U.S. soldiers. When you said that disgusting remark to Zelensky a month ago or whatever it was, and you say, well, he's my favorite politician because no U.S. soldiers have died over here. You are a sick man. Ukrainians and Russians are dying by the day, maybe by the thousands. Sick. So anyways, that was their response. It was pathetic. President Trump comes out. We got to show it one more time. This may be the third time I've shown this. This moment in President Trump's speech to me was really one of the most powerful moments. It was because it was spontaneous. It was real. It was honest. It was full of love. And it was just amazing. So let's play it one more time. You've heard his name before. His name's JD. Watch President Trump introduce JD to the country on Tuesday night.
In 2018, DJ was diagnosed with brain cancer. The doctors gave him 5 months at most to live. That was more than 6 years ago. Since that time, DJ and his dad have been on a quest to make his dream come true, and DJ has been sworn in as an honorary law enforcement officer, actually a number of times. The police love him, the police departments love him. And tonight, DJ, we're going to do you the biggest honor of them all. I am asking our new Secret Service Director, Sean Curran, to officially make you an agent of the United States Secret Service. DJ.
It's just so perfect on many grounds. By the way, his name's DJ. I said JD. I've got a bit of dyslexia. I realized that more recently after years on this earth. I realized, I've got some dyslexia. I switched numbers. I always kind of felt like I'm not smart enough or whatever. No, it was just a little bit of dyslexia there. No big deal, but you guys are forgiving, and it was it was an epiphany to learn that, because you're not beating up on yourself. You just learn how to deal with it, with any handicap, I guess, or whatever. So anyways, DJ had an incredible moment there. He was all over the news. It was incredible. We saw how MSNBC made it into this comment. Well, we sure hope, DJ, that you don't commit suicide. That was just absolutely disgusting. But basically, that's what they said. And it was just so gross. But it was so powerful. And the Democrats had no answer. Their response was just weird. Weird again. They do this video earlier in the day, and they have no policies. Ask, what's the Democrats' policy? Anti-Trump? What's Trump's policy? Save America? So what's that mean the Democrats are? Well, they're anti-American. I mean, it's pretty clear. It's clear. If you want prosperity, peace, well, I think you've got Trump. If you want people that hate prosperity and peace, well, choose a Democrat. And the response was terrible. It was just pathetic. Anyways, here's basically the Democrats' response to that.
You couldn't pay me to be a liberal again. You couldn't do it. After watching that speech, I am convinced that Democrats hate America. The way that they didn't stand for Laken Riley's mother, the way that they didn't stand for that little boy who has brain cancer, the way that they didn't stand for that young man who got accepted into West Point. Are you with me on this? The way that they hate America. My God.
That was pretty real and pretty big. That was really awesome. That girl, that's less than a minute long. Elon Musk shared that this morning, and it's gone viral. It has had millions of hits on Twitter. And she's right. She's just so right. It's like, how could you pay me enough money to join that party? If they're disgusting. They hate everything that I love. And it's terrible. Here is a moments after DJ receives that incredible membership to the Secret Service, become a Secret Service agent, an honorary Secret Service agent. There was an individual there. Trump went through this guy's accolades. He's got like 5 varsity letters, excels in sports, and he's got like a 4.4 GPA or something. The kid was just super, and he's applied for West Point. And President Trump mentions this kid at West Point as applying, and then he says to him that you've been accepted, by the way, to West Point. Right there, this kid just flips out. Look what DJ does to this great American who just became a West Point cadet. Watch this.
I'm pleased to inform you that your application has been accepted. You will soon be joining the Corps of Cadets.
That was so special. My God, how could you sit for that? The Democrats are sick. Just gross. That was so moving because it was so real. It was spontaneous, and was so well done. President Trump, I think he's able to do this because he understands people, he understands America, and he loves America and the American people, and it's easy to do. The left always has such cringe when they do things. It's like, what's going on here? And with that before the event there, 22 senator salute, which looked pathetic, looked stupid. They wore these signs, or brought these signs to the event saying "not true," which when things were true. and just more lies. And on social media, it just got thrown back in their face as people started putting words in these placards that the Dems were using. It was just pathetic. Everything was just terrible. So what a terrible week the Dems have had. And now to top it off, here this week, this towards the end of the week here, Adam Schiff has words to say to President Trump. You can tell the guy, he's scared. He's one of the biggest. We call him Lion Adam Schiff. He's got a record that's pathetic. I tell you, I don't believe the guy even won the election in California. I'll stand by that until you can prove to me differently. Absolutely not. This guy is a piece of work, and he was awarded that Senate race for all his corruption in President Trump's first term. Look what he has to say, basically in response to this incredible work that President Trump's doing this week. Take a look.
We need to speak out. We need to be courageous. They come after me all the time. Elon Musk and Donald Trump, they call me a criminal. They call me a traitor. Their MAGA minions online come after me to try to intimidate me, to create fear. I'll tell you my response. My response to that is screw you and the horse you rode in on. I hope that is your response too. We must not give in to this climate of fear. We are Americans. If our troops can face the bullets and the missiles and the dangers of combat, then sure enough, we can be courageous at home.
That guy's just insane. He's just insane. My God. But I think, like people are saying online, he's scared. He is really scared this stuff's coming after him because he's lied. He's lied about some major stuff in the past that's really important. And maybe he knows his days are numbered. We don't know all that he's done. We really don't. So we will find out, I hope, during this administration. And we're all just hoping and praying that people are brought to justice. If they've committed treason or if, yes, especially, but if they've committed any crimes and it's still within the law to prosecute them, I really hope that we do that. Lots of information needs to come out. Anyways, here's a piece that came out yesterday. It's been out. I've seen it before, but there is an entity that has looked into Joe Biden's signature while president. And this piece is up at joehoft.com. You can take a look right now. But basically, the Biden administration was ran by an auto pen signature. The question mark is who ran it? Who had control over that signature? Because this group went through all these things that Joe Biden signed, and they're all the exact same signature. It's all an auto pen. So Joe Biden didn't sign those. Who did? There was one exception that they mentioned. I think it was the time that Joe Biden steps aside and doesn't run as president. And in that memo, or whatever it was, whatever type of document, it's a little bit different signature. It looks like Joe Biden's, but it's not. We're not really sure who really signed that. So, anyways, that's what's going on, and that's what we need to find out. Who was running the country? The implications are that if Joe Biden wasn't running the country, then, and if he wasn't signing these things, and because you saw the House Speaker went and met with him months before he ended his term and said, this guy's lost. We all knew it back in 2020, the guy was lost. He stayed in his basement during that whole campaign. Of course, he didn't have 81 million votes, but this is a big deal. This is a really big deal. We need to find out who was running this country and who's signing all that stuff. And by the way, if some of these documents were signed with this auto pen and we can figure out who actually signed them and it's not Joe Biden, I can't see how any of these documents can be classified as legitimate. So big deal there. Another big deal that came out overnight that I wanted to mention here before we bring on our guest. President Trump issues, as you know, every day he's issuing memos and executive orders, etc. This one's pretty unique. He says he sent this memo out to his staff and basically said, if you're, and I'll summarize it, at least my understanding, and it's if you are attacked through lawfare, if there's some group that's trying to stop you, if they have sued you for whatever, like these garbage cases we've seen against President Trump so far, trying to tell the president that he cannot fire people in the executive department, trying to tell the president that he cannot stop fraudulent payments going overseas like we've seen. President Trump sends this memo to his memorandum to these various heads of his executive departments. And he says this: if you're being sued in a case that's likely lawfare, we want you to request a deposit up front for damages when these people lose, because they are getting away with it, he points out. There's no penalty for filing these things. And after whatever days, weeks, or months, the case gets thrown out eventually by the Supreme Court. We, hopefully in most cases when it makes sense. And these people need to pay. You can't just file something and stop the government for basically weeks, maybe months, and not have a penalty. So that's what this memorandum is. I think it's a great idea, and let's hope that his team does that. I heard in England, if you sue somebody and you lose, you pay all the costs. If somebody sues you, they lose, they pay all the costs. That's the way it is. It prevents people, I think, from frivolous lawsuits. That's the way it should be here in the U.S., I think, and this is a great step in that direction. So kudos to the Trump team for all the hard work they're doing. Every day there's new executive orders, new memorandums, all sorts of information that's coming out that's, I believe, trying to protect the American people so we can move forward with this agenda, get America back on track, bring forward these golden years, as President Trump said, and make America great again for sure. So anyways, we're going to take a brief pause here for a moment, and then we're going to bring on our guest. But before we do that, you're going to notice that there's an ad in this break from the Oxford Group, and I just wanted to mention the focus on that. Take a look. It's the world's, and here's some information I can give you on it. Some of the smartest investors in the world aren't buying oil stocks; they're collecting money or mailbox money from oil royalties instead. I'm talking about passive income that shows up month after month, starting with as little as $25. Visit HOFTOILBOOM.com. That's HOFTOILBOOM.com to discover how to tap into monthly royalty checks from America's most productive oil basin. You don't have to be wealthy or connected. All you need is a brokerage account. Again, that's HOFTOILBOOM.com. Go there to learn more about how you could start collecting oil royalty checks every month. You'll see more of that during the break, and we'll be right back with our guest here on the Joe Hoff Show today, this wonderful Friday. We'll be right back. Hi, this is Joe Hoff. Are you looking for monthly income without the risk of stocks? Here's something you won't hear about on CNBC. This unique way to collect royalties directly from America's most productive oil fields. No exploring, drilling, or operational headaches. You simply collect checks month after month. The best part? You can get started with just $25 through any brokerage account. The Oxford Club's chief income strategist, Mark Lechtenfeld, breaks down what he believes is the #1 royalty play for 2025. Visit HOFTOILBOOM.com now to learn more. That's HOFTOILBOOM.com, HOFTOILBOOM.com. Stop buying oil stocks and start collecting oil royalty checks now instead.
In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act.
As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage.
We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle.
Hi, I'm Joe, Supreme Leader of DCF. What is DCF, you ask? We're the best damn sandwich shop in the universe. Do we sell hoagies? Well, we're DCF. And the F doesn't stand for hoagies. We got 9mm sandwiches. We got beastly baguettes. And we toast buns like no other. Looking for training on bun safety? We got you covered. And our ranges are the best place to test out your new Not sandwich. So get your buns out, because the sun's out. And let's party! We're not actually a sandwich shop.
Hey, welcome back to the Joe Hoff Show. Happy Friday, as I already mentioned, and happy Trump Friday, as we should say every day in the USA since this election. So we're really thrilled for President Trump. I'm also thrilled to introduce to you our guest, first time on the Joe Hoff Show. He's the Montana State Auditor, and he's here with us, and we've got a lot to unwind, and I'm really anxious to introduce to you Mr. James Brown. James, welcome to the Joe Hoff Show.
Thank you, and thank you for having me on, and I can tell you I know what all your listeners and viewers are thinking right now, and the answer is, of course, I do feel good. So a little reference to the Godfather of Soul there.
Well, that's great. And so for people that don't know you or your background, why don't we start with that? Why don't you kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, your family, and your upbringing, and then what led to where you're at today?
Yeah, as you stated, I am the state auditor for the state of Montana, Big Sky Country out here. We were talking a little bit off air there that my family history is pretty similar to the Yellowstone TV series. I was elected to be the state auditor in November of 2024, so I've been on the job about 2 months. The interesting thing about the Montana State Auditor, it's a constitutional position, but I don't audit anything. In the original Montana Constitution in 1889, the auditor, of course, sort of performed the Doge functions, if you will, by auditing the functions of government. But Montana adopted a new constitution in 1972. It's one of the younger constitutions in the United States, state constitutions. And the audit duties were taken away from me, and I was made the Commissioner of Insurance and Securities. So I regulate insurance and securities in Montana. And then in keeping with the Yellowstone TV series, I also serve on Montana's Land Board, where we manage state lands for the benefit of Montanans.
Wow, that's fantastic. I didn't realize that. It's kind of an oxymoron then to call you a state auditor, I guess. But what do you have background in auditing, by the way, or in finance, or what's your background? How'd you get there?
Yes and no to that question. My true profession is I'm a attorney. I ran my own private law firm for about 20 years before being elected to Montana's Utility Regulation Board, the Public Service Commission. And then I ran for this position in 2024, as stated. But certainly, as part of my private legal practice, I represented financial institutions for many, many years, including most Montana banks.
Wow, fantastic. So I'm just curious. So I'm an auditor. I don't know if Gary told you that. Gary's our friend who brought me on board.
Yeah, he did. He told me that, yeah.
Yeah, so I've done audits around the world. I actually worked for a big Fortune 500 corporation and was blessed. I was director of international audit for a period of time, and then I was overseeing our financials for a period of time for our Asia block, Asia Pacific, and then actually moved to Hong Kong and ran an audit team out there. So it was a lot of fun. I got to see the world in auditing, which you wouldn't think of typically, and throughout the U.S. as well, U.S., Canada, all around the world. Lived in Hong Kong, so it was a great job. It was really awesome. I mentioned to my daughter this morning, we were talking. She's applying for a job somewhere, and I was just telling her, well, just kind of turn it over and just trust whatever you get's going to be the right place. I don't think I ever would have imagined when I got my CPA that I'd be someday working in Hong Kong as an auditor. So you never know what's going to happen, right?
Yeah, well, we almost went down a similar path, honestly. So I got my master's in tax law from the University of Washington. out in Seattle, and I interviewed with the big four accounting firms actually to go to work with them, but I took a different tact. And the reason I did that is, unfortunately, my mom was diagnosed with terminal cancer, so I had to move back to Montana and sort of disregard that. But that's where the path has led me now to elected office in Montana. So.
Wow, fantastic. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, yeah, I enjoyed it actually. It was hard work sometimes. So there's one job I had. I just never stopped working all day long and all weekend. It was really crazy, but it was real rewarding. So anyway, so that's something, and I'm really into this position that you have then. So you won this. This is your first time running for office then, or no?
So no, I served in a elected position prior to this. I was the president of the utilities board in Montana that regulated power companies, railroads, pipelines, transportation companies, small water projects. It was a great position. When this position was vacated by now Congressman Downing out of Montana, folks called me and encouraged me to run to be the state auditor because of the skill set I had in regulating large sectors of our economy, I would say. And then, as I stated, given my background, with dealing with businesses and my tax background, and then the other thing that makes me unique, I think, in Montana history is I'm the first person to sit in this position that actually has a license, insurance producer's license. So not only
Wow.
my attorney, I did the insurance side as well. So a pretty good fit as well.
Yeah, fantastic. And you won the race by pretty much a landslide, right?
Yeah, it was Montana went deep red in 2024. I won by my calculation 22 points. It was a red wave here in Montana. What's interesting about that, I appreciate that question, is that growing up, so fourth generation Montanan, for those that watch the Yellowstone series, the 1883 origin story, it's very similar to my family's background. My great grandfather homesteaded Montana 1882, coming out of Flushing, New York. But when I was growing up, Montana was a very purplish, if not a blue state, because of the Union history in the state with the railroads and the mining. But in the last 15 years, it's completely flipped over. We went from 2008 election where Democrats held all the statewide offices to 2024 where Republicans hold not only all the statewide offices here in Montana, but we have all 4 congressional seats now too. I'm sure you saw, the Tim Sheehy, John Tester race, which flipped the United States Senate. So Montana is becoming a deep red state.
That's fantastic. I think the working man has just moved. It's amazing. This billionaire comes in, Trump, and he aligns with the working man because maybe he was the first guy to stand up and say, "Hey, look at the Midwest. Look at these big, cities that are just turning into, hellholes. Really, there's no jobs." And he wanted to bring those jobs back, and he's doing it again. And it's great. I love what he's been doing in that regard. I've been a big fan of Trump since 2016 when he ran. My twin brother Jim and I, we talked a lot then, even though I was in Hong Kong, and we both, we were on the Trump train really early. I was in Hong Kong at the time and started writing with him, and he owns and founded the Gateway Pundit. So I started writing with him, and we had tremendous success together doing that for a number of years. So Trump loved his policies, love him better. I just think he's coming in now with all sorts of posture. I think he's got a great team. That's a big part of it, and he knows really where to focus. So so far so good. What are your thoughts? And did you watch his presentation is on Tuesday night?
I did, yeah. No, I think your thoughts are absolutely spot on. He is able to connect with the working men and women in this country in a way that no other Republican candidate for president ever has, and I include Reagan in that. That's what has turned Montana to deep red here, because what was happening in Montana were a very rich state for natural resources, as you can imagine, mining, timber. Well, what was happening is the Democratic Party, as you know, not only here in Montana, but nationally has been attacking extractive industries, right? And that has cost a lot of union folks in Montana jobs, and they have come over to the Republican Party here in Montana, which is set us on the path where I believe for the next generation, because of what Trump has done and his messaging, and that he actually advocates for the American people, unlike a number of presidents we've had recently. I think this has set Montana on at least a 10 to 20 year trajectory for Republicans just dominating this state. So yeah, I had the pleasure in 2016 of being a delegate for Trump at the Republican National Committee. So I've been on board pretty much since the start.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, I can remember that. There was contentious convention for a while. They were trying to steal it from Trump, give it to Ted Cruz. That didn't work, thank God. That was the thing. The whole process up to that, I was keen on that from overseas, even watching that. So you were part of that, huh?
I was. It was a pretty amazing experience to be on the floor there in Cleveland, and I'll never forget the signage that said "over the top," right? Trump wins the nomination. Pretty exciting.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. How awesome. See, that's great. It's really neat to hear you were been able to have part of that. What is the politics in Montana? What's the GOP? Are they in alignment with President Trump's policies? Is there anything where they go different or no?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. So Montana is a Trump state. There's no doubt about it. He won the state by 25 points in the presidential election. What's kind of interesting though is in our state legislature, even though we have an overwhelming Republican majority, there is clearly a split between, I would say, the Trump Republicans and the more moderate Republicans, and it's playing out every day right now in our legislature. In fact, our Senate in Montana got hijacked because there were enough, quote, moderate Republicans that are working with the Democrats that the duly elected Senate president in Montana, who is a Trump guy, is really just a figurehead at this point. It's pretty remarkable.
That's you know what? That's not uncommon. I'm seeing it across the board, across the country. States that are super red, Missouri, Alabama, but Florida, there's just this contingent. Texas is a great example, right? Where they've got that house where it's red, it's totally red, and yet these, I'll call them rhinos, align with the Democrats, and together then they select a Republican speaker who's aligned with the Democrats. And the real conservatives that are there don't have the numbers to overcome that. And I guess the voters are, these people run as I think a lot of these people basically, maybe even, well, in Missouri's case, there were some of these people just basically lied about being conservatives. They get voted in and they are nowhere near being a conservative. They vote that way as well once they get into the House. And it's very deceitful. It's really tough on the people when that happens. You see that? Is that kind of scenario similar there or no?
Yeah, 100% aligned with what you just described in Missouri. It's exactly the same. In Montana, they're being referred to as the Naughty Nine senators because that's exactly, they ran as Trump conservatives and now are voting with Democrats. And where that's manifested itself in our state is that the Medicaid expansion bill came up for authorization here in Montana in 2025 during our session. And, you would think that there would be a lot of dialogue about expanded Medicaid, but they just rammed it right through because of these 9 Republicans that are voting with Democrats.
Yeah, I think I've heard this about Montana. Some politics going on, within the Republican Party. I'm telling you, I think it's happening everywhere. And maybe that's the Democrat strategy. I've heard that too. They run as Republicans because they know there's no way they can run as a Democrat. So you got Democrats doing that, and it's not honest. We've got to figure out a way to identify, shine a light on them, and get them out of there, as soon as we can. The one thing you mentioned earlier, James, is the timber industry. I see Trump, like within the last week or so, just opened it up. How does that impact Montana then?
Well, it's a really positive development for our state because we have a lot of timber in Montana. I mean, one of the huge economic drivers up the state. Our actual nickname, by the way, is not Big Sky Country, which is often used, but we're actually called the Treasure State. That's our official name, and it's because we had all these natural resources to use when we became a state in 1889. But what's happened, which is, played out in Washington State and Oregon and Idaho and that sort of thing for about the last 50 years, the federal government has really come in and harmed the timber industry. It's true in Montana as well. It's a good thing that Trump is expanding access to our timber producers for board feed, for example, on national forests and that sort of thing. The problem we face, Joe, is that because of the attack on the timber industry, we've lost most of our timber mills. So even if we're able to cut it because of the Trump administration, there's no place to process it. That's a real problem. It's also indicative of what's happening nationally in this country, as you know, as the Democrats have shut down the infrastructure for the United States to produce its own goods, right? And that's the way it's playing out here in Montana.
Well, I've heard that in Oregon too. I had a buddy had me out there to speak, and it was real nice. But he mentioned that about this beautiful hills full of trees. He says, no, that we can't cut them. That was a half year ago. And I'm like, what? Yeah, the Dems won't let us cut those trees, but we'll import lumber from overseas, from Europe. And like, what's going on here? What's it's clearly, to me, everything, when you sit back and looked at everything in the last regime or few regimes, that was their effort. I think was everything they did was to like destroy America. I just can't see any other way of looking at it. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the reason that we were such a powerhouse in World War II, right, is because we produced everything in this country and were able to mobilize. But what's happened, as you stated, there's been an intentional attack on productive industry in this country for many, many years, where production is shipped overseas. It becomes a national security issue. But the other thing that people don't think about, which is playing out in Montana, of course, is when you have to import timber products from overseas, the cost of housing has exploded because you're not producing timber to build in our own country, which would be clearly cheaper, exportation. And so it's part of what we call the crisis in the United States that was suffered in the Biden administration, the affordability crisis. And that's all due to years and years of Democratic policies, which are, in my opinion, were by design.
I agree. The thing that's hit me in the last few weeks, and I've been saying this more and more, I thought that it was just insanity. No, it's intentional. It's intentional. If you wanted to destroy America, then you would do exactly what these people have been doing, with the cities, destroy the inner cities, destroy the Justice Department, the judicial system, and just everything that you can, tear it apart. Military, institute policies that are insane, anti-human. We've had a lot of that. Do you get that out in Montana? Do you get like these trans policies or the DEI? Was that a part of Montana's makeup here over the last few years or no?
Very, very fortunately, we have not been on the front line of that, and that's because we have been able to put Republicans in office in Montana for about the last 10 years. So fortunately for us, that is not the case, but certainly we're seeing what's happening elsewhere, and we don't want it imported into the Treasure State.
Mm. So you mentioned during the break before you came on that there's a big event at the White House today. What do you know about that?
Yeah, so President Trump is doing some groundbreaking work today at the White House. He's got a crypto leaders summit. As you probably watched during Trump's 2024 campaign, he talked about how he wants the United States to become the leader in the area of digital technology, digital payments, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, that sort of thing. You probably saw early in this administration, he basically issued an executive order that took the shackles off from the Biden administration in terms of these digital technologies, and he's bringing people who are leaders in the digital payment world together at the White House. And I tried very hard to get myself an invite out there today, but I was told that regulators like me, because we regulate securities, obviously, on the state level here in Montana, which would include digital payment systems, that we'll get to the regulators in a bit, but I think it's a fantastic thing he's doing. And part of the reason I wanted to come on your show, as you know, is that right now Montana is out ahead of every other state, I believe, in terms of providing a regulatory infrastructure for digital payment systems to be properly regulated and therefore legitimized, if you will. We're working, my office, are working with a state senator here in Montana to provide a regulatory framework for what are called digital tokens, which are basically a method of passing digital payments, if you will, for other digital services that would be regulated, and the businesses that engage in this could domicile in Montana, come from overseas or from other states, and Montana would be the leader in this area. And we're working our way through that bill through the Montana legislature, and I think there's a good chance our governor will sign it into law, and Montana will become the first state to properly regulate these digital tokens.
Man, that is exciting. So what you're saying, let me see if I understand. I've translated as far as what I'm understanding. You're saying that you're going to be able to have a cryptocurrency and use it for everyday purchases in Montana. Is that what you're saying?
So not quite. So what it is that we will make lawful what are called digital tokens. And what it is it's an ability for those that have technology to trade services between each other, where these little digital tokens get passed like a form of payment. The bill that we're working on would create the regulatory scheme where these companies that engage in this could domicile in Montana, register with our Secretary of State, and be regulated by us. The Bitcoin and the stable coin, the actual currency part of that, like that would be backed up or recognized as legal tender, and that could be used as a claim against a central party, for example. Like you could take your cryptocurrency and go to a bank and get it monetized, right? You get $1 for it or whatever. Those are the larger discussions that are now happening with the Trump administration and going on at the White House. But what we are doing is we're creating a niche where these entities that engage in technology can trade back and forth without having it treated as some form of a legal transaction. So basically it's a barter system, right? So if I have room on my server where I can store your digital information or whatever, and you need that, then I can send you a digital coin or two where you would store that information for me. And it's a form of a payment without being a payment.
That's wild. But do those coins have value then? I guess, right?
Well, they would, yeah. I mean, the value would be, it's not backed up, by, gold or anything. What it is, of course, is that the parties that engage in the transaction assign a value to it. So in many ways, for example, it would be like, when you're purchasing something on Amazon and you send a payment to Amazon. Well, obviously, the form of payment that you're using is backed up by money in your bank account or something to that effect. This is more like an honor type system, right? Where you don't necessarily have it backed up by a dollar value, but what you do have it backed up is by some kind of service that you can offer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's groundbreaking, I would call it, right? It's going to be able to, if this is properly regulated and recognized, and if we do it first in Montana, companies will start using this all across the world, where they'll trade goods and services basically through the digital world.
And there won't be so there won't be a monetary value to these various tokens or whatever you call them.
Well, my guess is eventually there will be, because I think once what these companies that want to do this or persons that want to engage in these types of transaction, what they're looking for is a state to recognize that this is a legitimate form of payment, if you will. And then what they'll do based on that, I'm sure, is the next steps will be they'll reduce the coin to an actual value, right? So that you could go to your bank and trade in your coin and get your $10 back. But naturally what's going to happen is they'll create some kind of trading market, right? Like Wall Street or something like that, where these coins can then be traded. I mean, this is really going to blow my. We're talking billions of dollars in commerce that will be created by what we're doing here in Montana.
And it's moving business away from the dollar and other currencies, I guess, as well. Huh?
Well, what we want to do is to provide so other countries like China are already putting in framework to do this, right? What we want to do is we want to create the framework in the United States so that these types of payments are recognized, and then peg it to the U.S. currency system so that we in the United States become the leader in digital currencies.
That's amazing. So let me ask you this. This is probably the question that some people would think about. There's this concern with this worldwide digital currency or whatnot that the World Economic Forum was pushing. And then with that, and I've in China, they use something similar where you can't buy stuff if you're in bad standing, so it was a way to control was the fear. How would that scenario be addressed through this system?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Certainly, this is a multi-layered answer. First of all, is you have to make sure that those that are in power in this country do not have the same kind of central government and control mindset that the Chinese do. I mean, thank God President Trump got elected in 2024. What he's trying to do is to make sure that these types of payment systems are used only for good and not for bad, for government control. He's trying to decentralize, Bitcoin, stablecoin, right? So that the federal government isn't necessarily the one that is offering these, which would then lead to the scenario you're talking about. He does not want to create a national digital currency.
Right.
What he wants to do is, as you know, under the 10th Amendment, the powers that aren't given to the government are reserved to the states. Well, the regulation of securities in the United States is still a state function. And what I understand the Trump administration is trying to accomplish is to allow the states to be the regulators of these so that it is more diversified and not centralized in order to protect against what you're talking about.
Wow, that's really interesting. Have you purchased? Do you buy any cryptocurrency yourself?
So I divested myself when I got this job for concerns about looking like I'm engaging in self-dealing.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. But yes, in the past I have.
Multiple types or just one Bitcoin or more than that?
No, multiple times.
Yeah. Trump also came out this past weekend with a I think it was an executive order where he says XRP and a couple other currencies would be added to some portfolio that the government is going to have. Did you read that? Did you check that out?
Yeah. What's going on there is that Trump has created a digital reserve for the United States, and the way that is being funded is through seized digital currencies, not by anything that's issued by the federal government. Trump has promised that, as we were just talking about, that he won't create a centralized or a federal currency, digital currency. So what he's doing is creating a reserve of these digital assets using seized assets as a way of protecting the United States, like diversifying your portfolio as an investor.
Mm-hmm. Well, that makes sense. I think XRP was involved in the Ripple case, and that the government went after these guys, which was, to me, it was criminal what they were doing. It was Ginsburg, wasn't that his name? The guy that was Hillary's CFO was the head of the SEC, and they tried to crush that currency. I thought it was because that currency XRP was a competitor with Bitcoin, and it looked like these guys had Bitcoin, and But anyways, Ripple eventually got a ruling that said, "Hey, yeah, their currency is a not an investment," which was real key because there's this voice out there that's trying to make it such that cryptocurrencies are an investment, therefore they have to adhere to all these SEC rulings regarding investments, which is really almost impossible. To label it as cash, you don't have to comply with all those forms and standards. So, anyways, that was my understanding. I was glad to see XRP is one that Trump was going to help, or at least maybe they made some XRP during that whole situation when the government was involved with XRP's case. I don't know.
Yeah, so to that end, it's exactly what you were just referencing earlier, is that the Trump administration's executive order basically, called the SEC off for being an attack dog, right?
Yeah. And the thing that I thought about that too was he's doing that because or he being Biden, because China was getting into crypto. And basically it wasn't to help America or protect Americans. It was to allow China to become the world's number one, authority on Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency. I thought it was, it was again another move that was hurting America. Was that your thoughts?
Yeah, so we all know the Biden administration had an unusually cozy relationship with the Chinese. I'm not going to subscribe the motive to the Biden administration of what he was intending to do, but we know what the impact was of the Biden administration's tamp down on these digital assets, and that was to make foreign countries the leader in this area. And Trump is trying to get the United States to be the leader in this area, which will be good for us economically, but also, of course, militarily, right?
Yeah,
To keep
absolutely.
us the strongest country in the world.
Yeah, so smart. So smart. Well, James, any final thoughts or any place how people can reach out to you to send you questions, et cetera, or follow you?
Yeah, I appreciate that very much. So I issued an order or directive from my agency here in Montana, the Montana Auditor's Office, the Commissioner of Securities and Insurance. We're taking public comment, not only in Montana, but across the country about how the states can be sort of the initiator of regulation of digital currencies. I'm the first auditor, commissioner of securities and insurance and to do this effort, so I'm way out ahead of everybody. But if you have comments as to how you believe the state should take a role in this, please submit comments to us here in Montana. Our website is csimt.gov, csimt.gov. Again, we have an open docket, and we are taking public comment as to how the public would like to see us regulate or not regulate digital currencies.
Oh, fantastic. Well, that's great. Well, we'll pass the word and appreciate all you're doing, James. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. It's great to be on your show.
Yeah, and happy weekend and enjoy your day out there in Montana.
Yeah, well, it is a beautiful day.
Great. That's great. Thanks a lot. Thanks for joining us. Take care.
You bet. Thanks.
We'll be back next week with more great shows and more great guests. Thanks for being here. Have a great weekend. God bless America. We'll see you then.